Hi, my name is Jill. You are here at Road Culture Rules, and today I talked about this once before, letting go in the second half of life. Well, I want to talk about the other side of that, and that is letting in on the second half of life. I'm having a moment, so we're going to talk about that in just a brief flash. We're going to take a deep breath in, inhale, hold for 4, exhale, and we will see you on the other side. I haven't done a book pitch in a while, so we're going to do a little short one. There's a link below. I have 3 different books that I offer either separately or as a bundle to help you move your life forward. The Survival Solution, which is really about making decisions based on values. Just Walk Away, which is to help you understand what you might need if you want to go nomadic. And the Getting Ready for Your Post-50 Life, which is really something everybody needs to look at. Not fun, but necessary. You can check that out below. I want to say thank you to those who have supported me so far, and back to our regularly scheduled program. So I did a video a little while back about letting go in the second half of life, and for those of you who are older, anything over 40 or 50 probably, you may have noticed that there is a lot of letting go processes that we have to deal with, right? We have to let go of a lot of physical stuff. We have to let go of a lot of our past roles, maybe as parent, maybe as an employed person, maybe health, relationships, things like that, kids. So it's kind of a hard time, and it seems like the older you get, the more there is to let go of. But I wanted to speak to the other half of that, about letting in. And I wanted to talk about that from a couple different perspectives. And the first one is really this idea of, yes, we're letting go, but when you make room for, when you let go, then there's an empty space. And as they say, nature abhors a vacuum. And so something has to come in and fill that up. And so when we do it intentionally, when we fill it up with something that we want, that can bring us great joy and great growth. And the reason why I really wanted to bring this up is I'm having one of those aha moments. As I've expressed, these last couple months have been about letting go, with Lilith dying, and then I tried to coordinate something else and that didn't work, and trying to let go of everything that's around me and move into what this next phase is. And so I've been really trying to understand why I'm stuck. I'm pretty good at letting stuff go. The difficulty for me personally is letting stuff in, and I understand the psychology of that in terms of my past, but I wanted to explore it a little bit more, and I wanted to toss it back to you in probably one of those oversharing kind of moments here, because I came up with this thought this morning about this whole letting in process and how we get comfortable with what we have. Things change, right? There was a lot of loss. I know for many of you there's a lot of loss, and I've had a pretty long stretch of simplicity and austerity, I guess we could say, and I'm really comfortable with it. I'm surprised I'm as comfortable with it as I am, and it creates a lot of freedom, not having a lot of things to be responsible for. And when I left on this version of the journey, I really, was a walk in faith that I would always have a way to get by. And that's happened. And in last September, I lost all my income. I had 3 sources of income. It all went away in a week. And since then, I've gotten by. You've bought books. YouTube has paid me enough here and there, which, by the way, they're demonetizing everything again. But, I've gotten enough to get my internet and cell phone paid for. So those are, the basics of getting these videos done. And in that time, I've also expressed, I've got a bigger vision, and especially this last week, I'm really trying to move this conversation forward in a much bigger way. I have a big vision for what I want to do off of YouTube. And what occurred to me this morning was I can't do it unless I let something else in. And I can get by with what I have, but until I make that decision to let go of the simplicity and the limits I've put on this lifestyle that I'm very comfortable with, they're enough to get by for me. I can get by with my computer, I can get by with my internet connection, I can do the basics with the simplicity that I've established. But the only way I can personally move this process forward is the willingness to let a bigger version in. And the reality is, I don't have the equipment. I don't have a way to travel easily. One of the things I've looked at and I've talked about before is getting a van so that I can travel fluidly. I need a laptop so that I can do the editing. I've got two hard or desktops that I'm trying to just edit off of, which clearly two desktops are not going to travel in a little vehicle. And, the horse trailer has been stuck, and I need to move the horse trailer to a different location long term in order to even start working on it. I cannot really start working on it here. So I wanted to talk about this letting in process because I've become hyper aware of that today, that the only way I'm going to change my path is to let more in. And I wanted to toss that back to you and see, what is it that you may have let go of or that you need to let go of so that you can allow what's new to come in. And I think that's really hard in the second half, because I still believe we're rewriting it and we're redefining it for ourselves, and that it's really up for grabs. What's going on in the world, what's going on with us, what we're capable of, and what kind of life we want to create that may not be as traditional, as our parents and our grandparents that have done it before. So one of the ways I kind of try to figure this stuff out is what is it? I don't know if you I said this already. It's so windy outside. We're into the second 24 hours of really intense wind, so the trailer is shaking. I noticed in the last video there was the noise in the background. There's noise in the background again. We are into an uber wind mode. So it's just one more thing to let go of. So in terms of wanting to understand what it is that's holding me up, I was looking at some different things, and it was not fear of success, it's not fear of failure, it's not fear of really anything other than, for me, I think this idea that I can't follow through. I think my biggest fear is that I'll be inconsistent, because one of my biggest values is to keep my commitment. And my fear is I won't be able to keep my commitment, which is why I don't like to do Patreon, because I like to get paid for work I've already done, not for future things that I might not follow through on. And, so I had to ask myself, is that even true? And, technically it's not. I did a podcast for 2 years, 3 times a week. I've done videos pretty consistently for the last 2+ years. It was January 29th, 2016 when I really jumped back onto this video format again. So that's 4 years of consistent output. I think that will qualify as being pretty consistent. So, I think part of this process is challenging your beliefs around what your fears actually are. And I don't think that that's necessarily a legitimate issue anymore. I think I've done a pretty good job maintaining some level of consistency in this format, and I'm committed to this format. And so I think that I can take that off the table. And the way that I have chosen to describe it for myself, you can see if this fits for you, is I had an aha moment a week or so ago that in so many ways I'm willing to accept breadcrumbs and not shop at the whole bakery. And that's a simple way of putting it, because I like to bake the bread. I thought I'd go with the breadcrumb analogy. But the reality is I'm comfortable with a little bit, because it doesn't require a lot of responsibility. It doesn't require much commitment from me. And those are two big things that I don't want to fail at. But I think that if I really want to move forward in a bigger way, I have to be willing to, get the whole loaf of bread and dive in. And part of that is being willing to let in what's next to really fulfill the version of my second half that I see as my work. So I'm oversharing a little bit about that because I don't know you and I can't ask you personally what yours is all about. But I wanted to encourage you to think about that, because it's not all gloom and doom. So I know I'm bouncing around on a lot of different topics right now, but I'm trying to expand, my space, my thinking, your thinking, not because I think I have any answers, but I'm really trying to just get this conversation moving in a much different kind of way than just your nomad life. Again, the reason I love mobility is it allows you to make so much more change in a small amount of time. That is, if you can move forward at all. theoretically, it allows you to move forward, which is what I love. I love the ability to be more resourceful versus, you know, for me right now, just having one place to live would be too stagnant. I couldn't. Even if I'm not moving, I like the idea that I can with relative ease. I can take my life with me. So that's just a little bit about my letting in my second half. I'm going to toss that back at you and ask you to think about what you want to let in for your second half. But before we go, we're going to take one more deep breath for the road as I hope you'll rise with the sun in your eyes and the wind if you're me, love in your heart, feet firmly on the ground as together we're walking on Survival Road one step at a time. I can't do this right. And also that you live free and die wild, because to me that's the ultimate letting all the good stuff in. So with that, we'll see you next time.